My mom slipped a gold necklace into my 15-year-old daughter's bag, getting her arrested for shoplifting. My dad gave a false statement to police saying he'd seen her take it. I found her crying at the police station. I didn't yell. I did something else. 3 days later, my mom couldn't speak and my dad was shouting, "Sometimes life changes without warning." It's not in dramatic movie-style moments. No ominous soundtrack. No dark clouds. Just a ringtone on a perfectly ordinary weekday. And before you even manage to say hello, the ground shifts beneath you. A little after 4, my phone lit up. It was my daughter June's name on the screen. She doesn't call me at work, she texts, usually memes, homework questions, or photos of our dog looking like he's pondering a political career. But calls. Ow. Her voice was small when I answered. "Mom, I'm at the police station. Can you come get me?" My grip on the phone tightened. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "I can't. Just come now." The line went dead. I stared at the phone like it might suddenly offer subtitles. For what I'd just heard, it didn't. The station smelled faintly of burnt coffee and disinfectant. It's a kind of scent that promises nothing good. The desk officer didn't bother with pleasantries. "You're here for June Dalton." "Yes, I'm her mother." He glanced at his clipboard. She was detained for shoplifting. Gold necklace found in her bag with the security tag still attached. That's why the alarm went off. His tone was as casual as explaining a parking ticket. Routine, detached. But it hit me like a punch. I wanted to say, "That's impossible." But nothing came out. I just nodded and signed the release. A few minutes later, June appeared. She walked like the floor was fragile glass, her eyes fixed near her shoes. Backpack dangling from one shoulder like a guilty prop in a bad play. "I didn't do it," she said before I could speak. "I know." My voice was steady, and I kept my hand on her shoulder until we were outside. In the car, she wouldn't meet my eyes. Silence filled the air until she finally whispered. They looked at me like I was disgusting, like they already knew I was guilty. "I swear, Mom, I didn't even touch it. Tell me exactly what happened." "I was with Grandma and Grandpa. We left the store, the alarm went off. Security checked my bag. It was there. I don't know how." Her tone stayed even, but her hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles were white. She didn't accuse anyone. She didn't have to my mind. Already knew the picture. When we got home, I told June to go upstairs and rest. She nodded and vanished. I stayed in the driver's seat, the quiet pressing in. Before I could talk myself out of it, I scrolled to Mom in my contacts and hit call. She picked up on the second ring, voice light, almost amused. "She was arrested while she was with you. Can you explain?" "Oh, maybe she just wanted to impress me. Mom said like this was a school project, not a criminal charge. She's not the type to do that. It's 15, she follows the rules. You're making too much of it. Teenagers experiment." My hands gripped the phone so tight I could hear my skin squeak against the case. "Did you put that necklace in her bag?" Silence. Just faint background noise. "Then you're making a huge deal out of nothing." I didn't argue, not because I believed her, but because I knew if I started, I wouldn't stop. I thought I understood. That was my mistake. Families like to pretend their oddities are harmless quirks. In ours, the so-called quirk was that my mother stole. Not out of need, we were comfortably middle class, but simply because that's who she was when I was little. I thought her finds came from unbelievable sales. By 8, I knew better. The sales happened after she slipped things into her bag. My younger sister Leona thought it was hilarious. She tagged along, copying every move, turning it into their private sport. The two of them were partners. I never joined in. Leona was the favorite from the start, not because she was smarter or prettier, but because she was fun. She broke rules, took dares, pushed limits. I was the opposite. If a sign said, "Keep off the grass," I stayed off. Mom and Leona would come home laughing, sharing inside jokes while I got labeled too serious. Dad never stole, but never stopped it either. He'd shrug and say, "That's your mother," as though it were a charming flaw. But it's one thing to live with a flaw and another to grow up in a home where rules applied to you, but not to everyone else, eventually. Mom slowed down more, so I thought. She even had court-ordered therapy once after getting caught, and we all pretended she'd changed. But sometimes she'd make little comments about the thrill, enough to make me wonder. Still, I kept visiting, brought my husband Rowan, even helped with their mortgage when they retired so they could keep their house. The favoritism didn't disappear, especially after Leona and I both had daughters in the same year. Astrid, Leona's girl, inherited the bold streak and quickly became Mom's new favorite. My June was nothing like that. She was like me, thoughtful, careful, a believer in rules. And her belief wasn't fear-based. She truly thought order. Made the world safe. By 12, she decided she wanted a career in law. She devoured crime shows, dissected courtroom scenes, pointing out every procedural mistake, like she'd been born with a badge. When she found the Police Explorer program, it was like her dream had been built into reality. As competitive as it was with interviews and background checks, she made it in. And she was ecstatic. For months, that program was all she talked about. At Sunday lunch, she'd light up explaining ride-alongs and evidence collection. Astrid would roll her eyes. Mom would smile, but it was the tight kind of smile that hopes the topic changes soon. I didn't think much of it. Families are complicated then. June went shopping with Mom and Dad. You already know what happened next. That's when I realized the favoritism, the inside jokes, the quirky shoplifting, none of it was harmless. It was a system, Stu. And my daughter had been dropped into it. If I'd seen what was coming, I might have prepared. But family has a way of convincing you that you've already seen the worst. That night, outside June's room, I froze. Parents are supposed to have answers about homework, curfews, how to get pen out of a couch cushion. But right then, I didn't. I could hear her crying, not loud sobs, but the quiet kind you try to keep in. "June, it's me." No answer. I went in anyway. She was curled on her bed, hugging a pillow like it could keep her afloat. Her eyes were swollen, her face blotchy. She looked smaller than she had that morning. "It's over," she said before I could sit down. "They'll kick me out of the program. I'll never get to do the career I want. It's not over. We'll fix this. We'll find a way." Grandma told him I stole it. Grandpa said he saw me do it. Her voice shook, but there was no anger, only confusion. "I think he was just protecting her because he loves her." I nodded. That was my dad all over cover for Mom, whether she dented a car or a reputation. They'd said the necklace still had the security tag on it. That's why the alarm went off. That was interesting. Mom wasn't sloppy. She wanted something, she knew how to get it out unnoticed. A tag still attached meant one of two things. She'd been careless, or she wanted it found. I assumed the first. "Get some rest," I told June. "We'll talk tomorrow." By morning, I had a plan. Rowan was there as backup to keep me from saying something I couldn't take back. We left June at home and drove to my parents' house. Nothing there had changed. The chipped garden gnome guarding the front step, the smell of overbrewed coffee seeping through the walls. Mom opened the door, raising an eyebrow when she saw Rowan. "This looks serious," she said, as if we were selling a timeshare. "It is." I stepped in without waiting for an invite. "You need to go to the police and tell them the truth. June isn't taking the blame for something you did. Did you put it in her bag?" Her face didn't change, but Dad, sitting at the kitchen table, sat up straighter. "How dare you accuse your own mother like that?" His tone was sharp. Not surprised. She could go to prison. "First offense, she's fine. Nothing will happen. She should stand up for her family. She's 15, Dad. This isn't standing up for family. This is taking the fall for something she didn't do." Mom waved her hand. "Exactly. First offense." She bounced back. "I've been through worse, and I'm fine. You're making this into a drama. It's not just shoplifting. You knew this could ruin her program. You knew how much it meant to her. Mom's eyes narrowed, a flash of irritation breaking her calm. Maybe that's for the best. I don't want her mixed up with police work. She's been acting like she's better than everyone. It was not careful, not calculated, just out in the open. I waited. She didn't take it back. She's 15, I said slowly. You didn't want her in the program because she was proud she got in. Mom leaned back, folding her arms. Astrid feels like she can't measure up perfect grades. Perfect program, perfect everything. It's not fair to her. I won't have one granddaughter making the other feel small. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the fridge. Then the picture came back to me. A gold necklace with its security tag like a scarlet letter. That wasn't an accident. You're too experienced for that. You left the tag so she'd get caught. That was on purpose. Dad shook his head, sounding genuinely shocked. Of course not. It was an accident. Mom's reply was flat. She needed to be humbled. She deserved it. Rowan's grip on my hand tightened, probably more to steady himself than me. We left soon after. There was nothing else to say outside. I looked at the house I grew up in, same siding, same windows, but realized I'd been wrong about its foundation. It wasn't built on love or loyalty or even Dad's flawed idea of sticking together. It was built on something else, entirely, and now my daughter knew it firsthand. We drove home in near silence. Rowan kept glancing over, maybe waiting for me to say something, but I didn't. When we pulled into the driveway, I finally said, she didn't even try to deny it. Rowan just nodded. Inside, June was at the kitchen table with a mug of tea, flipping through one of her crime procedure books like she could read herself out of the mess. How was it? She asked. I didn't answer right away. We'll talk later. I wasn't ready to tell her the motive yet, not that her grandmother had orchestrated it. Not until I knew exactly what my next move would be. That night I barely slept, replaying my mother's voice in my head, steady, without shame. She needed to be humbled. She deserved it. Stealing was one thing. Setting up my child was something else entirely. By morning, my mind was made up. No more paying their mortgage. No more quiet financial lifelines to keep them comfortable. I'd been keeping them afloat for years now. They could sink or swim on their own. Rowan didn't question. Good, he said, buttering his toast like we were talking about weather, not cutting them off. Somehow that made it even better. I also decided to go to the police, and I wasn't going empty-handed. They didn't know I'd recorded that entire conversation in their kitchen. I hadn't planned it. I just set my phone on the counter before we started. Maybe it was instinct. Or maybe I know my mother too well. But the recording had it all: Mom admitting she'd planted the necklace, saying June needed to be humbled, Dad's startled denial. The next day, Rowan drove me to the station. It wasn't the kind of errand you make small talk on. I handed over the recording, explained the situation, and left. They didn't say what would happen next, just that they'd look into it. And that's the problem with "we'll look into it." Sometimes it really means we'll file it and forget it. I didn't have to wait long. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom's voice was sharp, trembling. How could you do this to your own mother? You planted evidence on your granddaughter. You're making this bigger than it is. It's just a necklace. And a false police report. I cut in. That's not the same as forgetting to water a plant. I hung up. Then Dad called. You need to fix this. Fix what? You know, she's your mother. She's older now. This could be serious. She's a repeat offender, Sylvia. One more conviction, and she might actually go to jail. Do you want that? She's June's grandmother, I said. That girl should stand up for her family. She's 15, first offense. Nothing happens. But your mother has been shoplifting her whole life. If you chase the thrill for decades, you don't get to act shocked when the consequences catch up. He paused. You don't mean that? I didn't answer. The rest of the family jumped in. My aunt left a voicemail. You're tearing the family apart. We all have issues. You don't take them to the police. A cousin texted, "Heard you had a fight with your mom. Hope you work it out." An uncle sent a thumbs up emoji for reasons I will never understand. None of them knew about the money yet. They'd find out when the next mortgage payment didn't arrive. And instead of guilt, it felt lighter, like a weight I'd been carrying so long I forgot it wasn't part of me had finally been lifted. If it happened to land on their toes when I dropped it, okay? Well, they built the wall themselves. 6 months later, things were settled, at least for us. Mom's case went quietly through court. I didn't sit in the courtroom. I didn't need to. The summary told me enough. Misdemeanor theft of a $65 gold-plated necklace with a cubic zirconia, still tagged when it was found in June's bag. Plus, filing a false police report. Because it wasn't her first time before a judge. And because she hadn't shown any remorse, she got 3 months in county jail, halfway through her sentence. Dad came to my door looking like a man on a mission. He didn't believe in "She's your mother," he said. "You only get one." I waited. "She has a condition. She can't help it. Stealing is one thing. Setting up a child is another." That wasn't compulsion, it was choice. He left without another word. When? She got out, change hit fast. The house went up for sale within weeks. Without my help, they couldn't keep it. I didn't go to the open house. I didn't need to see empty rooms to know exactly what they'd lost. They moved into a small apartment across town. I never visited. Life moved forward. Rowan and I stopped mentioning my parents entirely. June poured herself into the Police Explorer program. She treated every ride-along and mock trial like it was a real case. One night over dinner, she announced, "I've decided criminal law. Not just because it's interesting, but because people deserve someone who'll fight for them." I smiled. "Then keep fighting where it matters." I don't know if I'll ever hear from my parents again. I'm not sure I want to. But I do know this: some family ties are meant to be cut. And once you do it, the air feels cleaner, the light brighter, and you can finally see who's still standing next to you. So did I go too far or not far enough? A few weeks after my parents moved, I drove past their old house. The gnome was gone. The windows were bare. Some stranger's car sat in the driveway where mine had pulled in for decades. It didn't hurt the way I thought it might. It just looked like a house. I realized then that I'd already done my grieving, not for a person, but for the version of family I'd been clinging to. The one that was never really there at home. June was studying for her next Police Explorer test. Rowan was making dinner, and the air smelled like garlic bread. It was simple, was enough, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed anyone an apology just for living my life.